Buddham sharanam gacchami.
Buddham sharanam gacchami.
Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami.
Dhammam sharanam gacchami.
Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami.
Sangham sharanam gacchami.
Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami.
Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami.
Radan la me je ben ye shabji pemo la du de phungba kun la dozem roma yum la chan se lo om tare tu re so 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 Dare tu re so, 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 dare tu re so. Dare tu re so, 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 dare tu re so. Dare tu re so, dare tu re so, dare tu 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 so. Dare tu so, 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 dare tu so. Dare tu re so, 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 ha gewan di yen do da hama do ma tu yonen do wa chi jam le ti salang go bara sho. Tashi delek to everyone. So due to the internet fluctuation last time, we could not take the whole session properly. So I'll just quickly read the verse 13 again and then 14 onwards. So the verse 13 said, the sage said that heedfulness is the source of deathless and heedlessness is the source of death. Hence, to increase your virtue, devotedly remain heedful. So that means, as I explained earlier, the sage means Buddha. The Buddha said heedfulness. If you don't be careful, don't be heedful, then that will be the source of if you maintain heedfulness, then that is the source of deathless. Deathless state here means the state of beyond suffering, the state of liberation, the state of nirvana. And heedlessness is the source of death. So death means to be born in the samsara, where we experience death, aging, sickness, and so forth. Hence, to increase your virtue, devotedly remain heedful. So increase your virtue means, as we have been saying so many times, that by nature we want happiness and do not want suffering. And in order to have that long-lasting happiness, we need to do some spiritual Dharma practice. And in order to do the Dharma practice, we need to know how to do it properly. One, so the three things that is really important is mindfulness, conscientiousness, and heedfulness. Okay, different translators have used these English terms differently, especially the second one. So I don't know which one is really correct, but the meaning is mindfulness means that you should be able to know what is negative, what is positive. And mindful means you should remember that, the negative ones as negative and the positive ones as positive. So that is the task of mindfulness, to remember what is positive, what is not negative. And the job of the second mind, the conscientiousness, means to see whether the mindfulness is doing its job or not, whether it is really like focusing on what's to be practiced, what not to be practiced. So that's the job of conscientiousness. Now, in order to let the conscientiousness do the job, one must be heedful. That means in one's daily life, one should be really very cautious and careful. Okay, that's very important. In our regular life, we should be really cautious, because one, within us we have strong negative tendencies and negative habits, and two, in addition to that, as if adding fuel to the fire, that we are also surrounded by situations, environments, which are really very helpful in developing negative qualities, but not so much helpful in developing the positive qualities. So therefore, it is important to be heedful, to be cautious. That means check physically, verbally, mentally. Verbally, what are you saying to other people? Physically, how you are behaving, right? The way you look, eye towards others, the way you show gesture with your hand and other parts of your body. And then the most important thing is what your mind is up to, what is the mind thinking right now. So therefore, for a Dharma practitioner, the only job is to watch one's mind all the time. As one of the teacher in the past said, that when you're among many people, watch your mouth. That means speak less. Okay. And when you're alone in somebody's house and so forth, watch your hand. You might, either steal something, or even if you don't steal, but if you touch different things, like a beautiful cup is lying on the table, if you carelessly touch it, and if the cup slips from your hand and falls and breaks, there's a lot of embarrassment. So watch your hand. And then always watch your mind. Always, whether you are alone or with other people, watch your mind. That's very important. So therefore, one should always be heedful. Shantideva explains in his Bodhicharyavatara, one should be so heedful, just like a person who has like boils on the body, wounds, festering wounds and boils on the body. And with such wounds, fresh wounds on the body, if you are to join crowds, then you need to make very sure that your wound is protected, that nobody pushes or touches that part of the body where you have the wound, the boils. So similarly, our mind is like that wound. It can be easily hurt when you hear something from other people, when you see something. You are very sensitive, and you don't have much control over your mind. So therefore, at this initial stage, the most important job for a practitioner, or even if not practitioner, but for your own happiness and well-being and stability, it is not important to try to, or in fact useless to try to control others or environment, but you must control your mind. Control your mind means to see what is proper, what is not proper, what you should be doing, what you should not be doing, what you should be thinking, what you should not be thinking, So you should make the choice. The Buddha clearly said, I have shown you the path to Nirvana. Nirvana is up to you. That means you must choose. And if you choose the wrong direction, like anger, jealousy, hatred, you can choose that also. But that means then, as we already read, death and destruction, unhappiness in your mind, unhappiness in the mind of other people, and so forth. Right? So whether it's the question of achieving Buddhahood and liberation, or it is going to hell or any other negative state of existence, it is honestly in one's own hand. To summarize the point, that's why it is so crucial. And now in this case, unless one should be fully alert, awake, and watchful, one can easily be sidetracked, one can easily be distracted, because there's so many distractions from outside. Your mind itself is very fragile, not stabilized. And then in addition to that, there are so many glamorous things outside, especially in today's world. The countless advertisements that you see in the television screen, and then the rumors and so many, the so-called news or informations. I mean, even you, I mean, you're virtually bombarded by all this. Many of them are in fact senseless, so-called information. So you don't have time, and you can't afford to waste your time on all of these things that is there to see, to touch, to feel, to smell, and so forth, right? So 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 majority of the problems we have individually or at the society level or at the international level is because we don't maintain kind of discipline, maintain integrity. We just chase objects. And it is because of this ceaseless running and chasing the objects like Angulimala, as we read earlier, that we get completely tired, exhausted. Exhausted, one, physically running, two, mentally running towards those objects which is useless, and not letting your mind focus on those things which is really important and useful. You see, when it comes to doing something useful, we are unable to concentrate. When it comes to doing something nasty or negative, we call it fun. Everybody likes it. Singing or dancing or jumping. Your eyes getting distracted, ears getting distracted, and then the mind runs after all those sensual objects. You become a victim to the things that is available outside of you, right? So therefore, it is really, really important to restrain one's senses, because these senses, they are like windows and doors, and the mind is really like a monkey or whatever you want to call it. As soon as you open, without any watchman and so forth, let your senses run wild. That's why the Buddha said, the world is on fire because your senses are on fire. This is a very famous statement by the Buddha. The world is on fire. The eye sense is on fire. The ear sense is on fire. The fire of attachment, fire of anger, jealousy, and so forth. Then we get all the ceaseless streams of sufferings and problems. So therefore, if you don't want long-lasting happiness, it's altogether your choice. But if you really want long-lasting happiness, then it is, not just Buddhist teaching, but it's a common sense practice that if you really want a long-lasting happiness, the only way and the best way is to really see the situation, the reality as it is, without fabricating it, without denigrating it, seeing things as it is, and letting the mind accept the changing reality, right? Including the reality of interdependent origination, interconnected reality, shunyata, impermanence, death, and so forth. Accept them, learn all those situations, face those challenges. And it is by understanding the reality that you suffering, transcend problems. Right? So therefore, heedfulness is extremely mindfulness, conscientiousness, heedfulness. These three, if you want to know more, it is really beautifully explained in detail in Shantideva's Bodhicharya Avtara. So read that. Now, verse 14, one who has formerly been heedless, but later becomes heedful, like Nanda, Angulimala, Ajatshadru, Udayana, will also be resplendent like the moon free from clouds. So this, verse 14 is being said because a question could be asked by saying that, okay, I know it is very important to practice heedfulness, but if it is somebody who has been heedless for a long time, then what should we do? Then to this, it is answered by saying, yes, if you have been heedless and you have been doing some negative, destructive things, but still that does not mean that you cannot mend your ways. You can change your ways. And then he gives the examples of some people who led heedless, negative life, and those people were those who actually lived at the time of the Buddha. So these are concrete examples. Now we can also come up with examples in our own time where you can find, people who have been very nasty in the beginning and later on through life's experience and so forth got completely changed, you see. So take those examples, which shows that it is possible for everybody to change. And you should never say that now I'm old or I'm very late or I'm undereducated, things like that. Okay. It's a mental exercise. Okay. So which you can do. So he gives, but later becomes one who has formerly been heedless. Don't worry. Everybody makes mistakes, but you can change. But later becomes, if you become heedful, if you become more compassionate and things like that, then like Nanda, as I mentioned earlier, was a Buddha's kind of relative, and he was he was somebody, as I mentioned earlier, very lustful, and his mind was so obsessed with his wife that even after Buddha encouraged him to become a monk, so even after ordination, his mind was only thinking about his wife. And that is, I mean, something we can all relate to easily, because when it comes to negative things, it comes automatically. When it comes to doing something positive, it is an uphill task. Why this is so? Because, as I mentioned earlier, because from Buddhist viewpoint, one, for many lives we are habituated with the negative things. And second, from scientific point of view, we have also this animal instinct, animal instinct. In the beginning, if you trace scientifically the source of the origin of human beings, uh, according to the human history, it is clearly said that the origin goes to 600 million years. And it starts from Africa. So basically, according to them, they say we are all Africans. Okay. The idea of the black and white and yellow, this are ideas which developed much later. But if you really, look at the source and the origin, especially if you check the genetic makeup, then we are all same. And then, of course, before that, the source of us human beings are the gorillas or the chimpanzees. We belong to the same group. And if you compare the genes, genetic makeup or genes of the chimpanzees and gorillas, human beings, it is over 95% same, right? So what I'm trying to say is, in the beginning, scientifically speaking, we were kind of animals. And then gradually we become what we call as the Homo erectus, as human beings being able to stand erect, and all those stories are there. So you can come up with different explanations. So anyway, here in this case, Nanda, I was explaining this point. Nanda was somebody who was lustful, just like many of us. The difference is in degrees, but we all have strong attachment, obsession to many things, like especially man to women, women to men, the obsession is much, attachment is much, much stronger. So in the case of Nanda, also he was somebody whose mind is totally into, his wife. And then the Buddha had to adopt a skillful means of taking him and showing sentient beings suffering in the hell realm. So once he saw this, his mind got completely changed. And later on, he became a practitioner who was specially like kind of excelled in restraining the senses. Right. So in our case, what this story is saying is, in our case is also, if we see, if you weigh the pros and cons, like for example, if you're getting very obsessed with something, then you study the object, how much it is worthwhile to develop so much obsession, you see. Like for example, in order to uh, uh, remove strong obsession and attachment, in the Buddhist texts, you're advised to meditate on the ugly side of that object. For example, in the case of human beings, if you have excessive attachment to a particular another human being, then that human being is basically made up of skins and fleshes and bones and marrows and things like that, right? So at the end of the day, it will be just a skeleton, and that skeleton also will fall apart and things like that. So it's really like a stuffed doll, So there's not much essence, but it is because of our, ignorance that we develop, and also strong natural habits and tendencies. We all, it's very easy to say, but we all have this susceptibility and tendency to immediately develop obsession attachment with everything, right? Like for example, it's really like watching a beautiful performance of songs and dances, things like that. So in the beginning, you might say, "Oh, what is there in the dance?" It's all made up, and people are just jumping and shouting, and so what is there? That way you can make it like not so worthy of development of attachment and obsession. But when you actually go there and hear all the musical instruments and people in beautiful costumes, your mind easily gets duped on the spot. So this shows how fragile our mind is. It can be easily entrapped by outside uh, attractions. So therefore, we need to really develop a very thorough understanding of the reality of everything and see whether it is worthwhile to develop such attachment or not. Okay. Then also, what is the benefit for you by developing such attachment? The pros and cons, right? It's important. So therefore, Shantideva came up with this statement by saying, why should a person who is himself or herself impermanent develop attachment to somebody who is also, impermanent? Perfect sense. Perfect sense. Right? That does now when we say don't develop attachment or, that kind of contaminated love, we are not saying don't develop love. So make a distinction between, attachment and loving kindness. Loving kindness must be cultivated and strengthened. Attachment must be decreased. Attachment arises because of your clinging to something. This is my wife. This is my husband. This is my Mercedes car. It becomes important because it belongs to you. Loving kindness doesn't say that. Loving kindness says, I must, help this person. I must support this person because this person is also like me, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. Not because that person belongs to you or anything like that. So there's a big difference. Okay. And then Angulimala. Angulimala was an example of somebody, who under the wrong guidance of a wrong teacher, who told him that if he, sacrifice 1,000, according to some text, they say 2,000, but most of the text, they say 1,000. If you, kill 1,000 people and chop their fingers and make a ring out of it, make a kind of rosary out of it and wear it on your, neck, then you will achieve such and such a spiritual height. So he was an ignorant person who also he faithfully followed his teacher and killed already 999 person. Then on the last day, when he was looking for the last person, Buddha knew that this is the time to discipline him, tame him. And then there's a long story there. So Buddha was able to change his mind, and later on he became a monk. And also it is said that he actualized arhathood. And so even somebody who has committed so many negative deeds can be purified, can improve. And in fact, sometimes, when you draw very strong, when you develop very strong remorse and regret of having done negative things, your wish to do the positive things is sometimes very strong, very strong. And then the next one is Ajat Shatru, the one who killed his father due to negative friend. So therefore, this one is also giving us the advice: don't associate with bad friend, because if you associate with, as I said earlier, we are not very strong in our thinking, in our decision. So therefore, you can be easily misguided by people. While it is important to listen what others say, but you need to really use your common sense and judge it, make a proper judgment, right? So make sure, associate with good friends. It's like in the text, it says, if you recline against dust, your cloth will collect the dust. If you recline against a gold mountain, you will collect gold. So it's like that. So similarly, especially in our case, when in the initial stage of our practice, when we are weak, not very strong, right? It is important to find good teachers, associate with good friends. Good friends means not that those who will give you money and then go to nightclub and things like that. Not those kind of. The good friend means one in whose association you will find the right path, the path of love, the path of compassion, path of integrity, path of discipline, path of truth, path of honesty, and things like that. Right? Not somebody who takes you on the wrong path, even if that person is giving you a lot of money and other help. Okay? So don't be lured by monetary gains. Okay, that's important. And then we have Udayana. Udayana was again another person who was who also was somebody who had a very strong fondness of women and always used to run away to live with his mistress. And then because his mother repeatedly tried to stop him going there, and then because of that, he killed his mother, right? So which is again, patricide or matricide, these are very heavy karma, very heavy negative karma. But later, out of regret, he's only stopped there. Then also, he was, of course, expelled from his monastery, but he started his own kind of small monastery to rectify the wrongs committed. And he also later on purified many of his negative deeds and achieved higher spiritual paths. So these are examples to show that it is possible. Will also be resplendent like the moon free from clouds, right? So the cloud is temporary. It will not be there. So your negative emotions can also be purified like the cloud. Then next, the next verse is talking about the practice of patience. Practice of patience. Now, in order to again confront and act against negative emotions, while it is important to be heedful, as we already discussed, that practice of heedfulness also must be supported by practice of patience. The realm where we live, where human beings live, this realm is called desire realm. The desire realm is propelled or run primarily by attachment and anger. Anger comes from attachment, because with attachment you want this, want that. Then anybody who obstructs obtaining that object of your attachment, your greed, then you develop anger towards that person, right? So therefore it is important that the most important counterforce against anger is patience, So therefore, since there is no penance like patience, you must give anger no opportunity to arise. The Buddha said, by giving up anger, one will attain the irreversible stage. Okay. And then in the next verse, I will explain these two verses more or less together. Why you get angry? You get angry by saying, I was abused by these people. I was bound by them. I was defeated by them. They have snatched away my property. So with this kind of reasons, you develop enmity, anger, thus harboring enmity. Because of these reasons, you keep in your mind that the person who did all this is your enemy. Because you have harbored that kind of enmity, then that produces quarrels, conflict, and fighting. But one who gives up harboring enmity sleeps happily. There's no need for me to go into detail. But regarding, for example, the previous verse, practice of patience, we are bound to encounter all kinds of harms from human beings, even from non-human beings, right? There will be many occasions when you will be harmed by this or by that. But if you keep on developing hatred or anger towards those harms, then you can never experience patience or peace in your mind, because there will always be somebody saying something or doing something, things like that, right? So therefore, practice patience. Forget about Dharma practice. Even in our daily life, if you are impatient, you can't achieve anything. If you have to do your homework and you are impatient, you can't complete it. If you are a farmer but impatient, you can't cultivate the land. You can't work in the field, you see, right? So therefore, these days, in the modern, terms, they use the word resilience. I think quite similar, resilience or patience, whatever you want to call it. It is important to have that kind of fortitude, the capacity to tolerate difficult situations. Because it is by tolerating, being patient, and studying carefully, and facing the challenges that you learn new experience, you grow. But if you run away from troubles, difficulties, that's not the solution. That's not the solution, right? Whether it's being patient in terms of somebody harming you, like, for example, let us think about the difficult situation between the Chinese leaders and the Tibetan people. They have been doing every possible nasty things during the last so many years. These days, they are trying to wipe out the very identity of the Tibetan people. Now, what should we do? If we get angry and say all the nasty words and develop anger and hatred, you will become the first casualty, first victim. The Chinese leaders may even not know what we are thinking, you see, right? So that doesn't help you. It actually harms you, right? Right? Then, for example, if it is a harm that you get from the environment, like change of weather, the weather is very hot or very cold, then you are becoming impatient and, shouting against the bad weather is not the solution. It will make your life more miserable, right? So therefore, instead of trying to solve the external enemy through negative attitude, change your attitude. Shantideva gives this beautiful example by saying that because you fear that your feet will be pricked by thorns, so in order to protect your feet, if you make a plan to cover the whole globe with leather, you will never be able to do it. From where are you going to get so much leather and how much time you have to do all this, right? It is stupid. And he says, no, and also you don't have to do that. You simply cover the sole of your feet with leather, just like, as we are wearing shoes. So that is like equal to having covered the surface of the whole earth. So it is like that. So much of the unpleasant experiences that we get in our life is because of how we react, how we see things. It's not so much from outside. Even if there's something negative from outside, but still it's dependent upon how you react, right? How you react. It's your mind, mental projection, right? So therefore, it may be true that some people must have, scolded you, or even beaten you, or snatched away your property. So many negative things happen between people. But the solution for that is not to hatch ill will, harmful intention, right? But still try to, learn from those experiences. And the best example that His Holiness gave is that despite the Chinese leaders doing all the nasty things, His Holiness always says, from my side, I try my best to do the best thing that I can do for the Tibetan people, for preservation of Tibetan culture, religion, and so forth. And after that, I don't get worried. I go to bed and get a good, night's sleep. So therefore, my health is good, and that is actually the right method to repay the wrongdoing by other people. I mean, very clever, very wonderful tactic. So instead, when somebody harms you, if you become unhappy, if you develop anger and hatred and things like that, that's actually what the enemy wants, to disturb you. So don't get disturbed. It's not easy, of course, but you can by seeing the, as I said, pros and cons, you can do this. You can do this, right? So it is in this case, the Shantideva said, if it is something you can change, no need to worry because you can change. And if it is something you cannot change, no use worrying because by worrying you can't change it. Right? Okay. So therefore he says, thus harboring enmity produces quarrels. But one who gives up harboring enmity sleeps happily. Now that does not mean that when, let others, trample upon you, let others exploit you, let others take advantage of you. You just remain there like a pillar, don't do anything. We're not saying that. Take all the steps that is necessary, like going to court and seeking legal help, whatever is needed. But when you do this, to fight for a just cause, when you do this, it is extremely important. Try to maintain mental calmness without ill will or negative feeling towards that person. So here, the important point that you need to learn is in Buddhism, it is constantly advised, hate the sin, similar like hate the sin, not the sinner. Make a distinction between the wrongdoing and the wrongdoer. A wrongdoing must be accepted as wrongdoing and criticize that. This is mistake. What you've done is wrong. But this does not mean to say that you cannot change. We all make mistakes. You also made a mistake. I also made a mistake. Mistake is mistake. But that does not mean to say that you are incorrigible or I am incorrigible. So that gives, that leaves wonderful space for possibility for people to gradually become better. Sometimes, unfortunately, we have this tendency of blacklisting people. When somebody makes a mistake, then everybody, again, it's a human tendency. When somebody makes a mistake, everybody is pointing their finger towards this person, saying, "Oh, he's the nasty one. She is the nasty one." Things like that. It may come out in the newspaper and all things like that, right? And then that person also become marginalized in the society. And then there is a likelihood of this person joining a, mafia gang or engage in some antisocial activities, because now that person doesn't see much hope in the society. So what we should be doing is to honestly tell that person in the court or otherwise that this is what you've done is wrong, but we all make mistakes. Now today you are the one who made this mistake, so you must accept it. As a person, I still have respect for you. I still very strongly feel that you can become better. And you can also cite some wonderful examples of that person having done many good things also. So you're not just embodiment of bad things, you've also done many good things. In our case also it's similar. We are not embodiment of all the good things. We have done bad things also. So in this way, don't ostracize anybody. Give everybody an opportunity to become better. So that is basically the focus of this verse. And then, but one who give up harboring enmity sleeps happily. It's very clear. If you don't maintain any ill will to anybody. So this is what the text is saying. If you maintain ill will, you will be the first casualty. You will be the first victim because number one, you can't sleep properly. You may be lying on a very soft bed, but you will be just changing sides, thinking about the wrongdoings of other person, and you will not be able to sleep properly. And gradually, you might experience hypertension, blood pressure increases, headache, increases, and then gradually your health will also be lost. And then you will die when it is no time to die. You will develop wrinkles on your face when it is not time to develop those wrinkles, or white hairs on the head. It's not the time. We do see so many people, even at a young age, who have a lot of worry, anxiety, They age when it's not their time to age, things like that. So we must see that these destructive negative emotions do only harm and no good to you. So therefore, try your best to not to develop these negative emotions like hatred and attachment and so forth. And then after that, the next verse, the Nagarjuna is saying how one should now practice these advices physically and verbally. First, he advises us about the importance of the mind out of the three, body, speech, and mind. The mind is the most important thing. And recognize the mind to be like a drawing made on water, earth or stone. The first among this is excellent for those possessing the defilements, and the last for those desiring religion or practice, religious practice. So that means whether it's the mind engaging with the negative things or with the positive things, there are three possibilities. One, the mind may, develop very strong negative emotion, or slightly less negative emotion, or very light negative emotion. Similarly, in the case of positive development of positive emotions also, it may be very strong or middle or less. So what is being advised here is that when it comes to doing spiritual practice, positive virtuous practices, it should be good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the conclusion. So it should really be strong, just like carving on a stone. Because if it is a carving on the stone, even if the stone breaks, but the line, the carving that's on the stone still remains there. Right? If that is not possible, at least try those positive practices like drawing on sand or earth, ground. Because if you write something on the ground, at least it will stay there for some time until a big storm comes or things like that. There is some durability. And it should not really be like drawing on water, because if you draw something on water, as soon as you draw, it's already erased. So in the case of development of negative emotions, it should be the other way around. It should be really like drawing on water. If not, drawing on sand or earth, but not like drawing on stone. Because in the case of development of negative emotion, even if you develop a very strong negative emotion, then you should realize, think, oh, this is not good. I'm becoming very angry. It's not good. And then the conclusion, you should say, oh, this is a mistake. It's very important, because in our life, what we normally see is people are so egoistic, so much obsessed with the self, that even when you know that you have made a mistake, we don't have the power to say sorry. Right? So in the society, to be able to say sorry and to be able to say thank you, these are like beautiful, behavior. Much of the problem will be solved just by using this. Some people call it magic words, thank you, thank you. You lose nothing. Just say thank you. Oh, so wonderful, thank you, and smile, And then so sorry, what will they do now? If you acknowledge and say sorry, what are they going to do? But instead, if you, it is you, not me, you did not see carefully, things like that, then it's making the matter worse, like adding fuel to the fire, Then the next verse, the conqueror, that means Buddha, declared that pleasant, truthful, and wrong are the three kinds of speech possessed by people. Such words are like honey, flower, and filth. Abandon the last of these. So that means just like your mental exercise, similarly in terms of your verbal activities also, there are three types. One, which really goes to the heart. Now, when we talk about the three types of speech, we are not talking just about the beauty of the word, but the content, the meaning of the speech that you use. Okay? Declare that pleasant word. Pleasant word means a word that really goes to the heart of other people, which people really, because of such, truthful and meaningful word, that it really goes to the heart, So that's important. Pleasant, truthful, truthful, truthful. Truthful means, it's clear, not using like misguided words, like for example, harsh speech or idle gossip and lying and things like that, right? Truthful. So the truthful word is compared to a flower which contains, a flower which is succulent, which contains, nutritious kind of nectars where the birds alight and can enjoy, right? Right? Because as a social animal, some of the most important features of being a social animal is the capacity to use language. Many scholars, they say that if we don't live connected and live in a society, many of these, beautiful speeches that we are using is not possible, right? If we live in isolation, the development of language is not possible, right? So therefore, this the capacity to use this beautiful, language is another special human quality. So therefore, we must use this language in a way so that when people hear you, they feel happy. Their sadness disappears. You know, you don't lose anything again. Materially, you don't lose anything just by giving good advice, just by speaking friendly. It can make the day of a person. And I have that experience myself. I may or may not have told you, but once long time back, I met when I was working in His Holiness office. Uh, there was a black woman with her child uh, came to His Holiness office. So normally I go down to talk to these people because I was only monk probably working in his office and who spoke a little bit English. So I used to go down. Then she mentioned so many things that he wanted to say. So I listened carefully. And then when I was about to speak something, when I started speaking, she said, I don't want to hear anything from you. Thank you very much. You listened to me for the first time. I found somebody who's listening to me carefully, but I don't need any kind of comment from you now. Thank you, she said, and she was very happy, and she just was crying, profusely. So that's the thing. That's the kind of society we live in. We don't listen to each other. We don't pay respect to each other. We are with the development of technology. We are also trying to become a piece of technology, which we are not. We are human beings with emotions, human beings with sensitivities. So therefore, it is important as much as possible with physical gesture. You know. So if you look around, there's so many opportunities to help people, so many opportunities to help people. You don't have to do any sacrifice. Just be considerate, just be considerate. And as and when the opportunity arises, help them. You can help them. You can help them. Because sometimes people don't know. Let me give you another small example. This is very small, just to, I think yesterday, outside the library, there were three young girls, maybe age maybe 10, 15 or something, like three of them with some books and papers. They were sitting outside the library. We have some places for seat. So they were sitting there and the sun was very hot. So they were there to do some homework or something like that. So then I said, oh, it's very hot, don't sit there. I took them down in our library. We have a public library. So I took them down. Now this is like nothing for me. But it's a quite big thing for them because they might even get sick, sitting there in the sun, and they're innocent young kids. So I took them down to the library. The library was more or less empty these days, you see, and it has nice tables and chairs, things like that. So this just a small example like that, you see. So if you show a little bit of consideration to other people, what they need, what they're looking for, very easy. I've seen many people coming to the library. They're just, looking here and there, wanted to talk to somebody, but they're a little bit shy and unable to say. So I just go a little bit intrusion maybe. So I always go and say, may I help you? So in some cases, through that you can really help people. Different situations, different occasions, there are many things they don't know. Many things they know, you don't know. Help each other. Okay. So therefore, speech. And then truthful and wrong. The last one is wrong. That is lying and so forth. Now the three kinds of speech possessed by people, such words are like honey, flowers, and filth. Abandon the last of these three. That means filth, like calling other people. You blind, you thief, things like that. So try use this beautiful capacity of language In fact, regard your whole body. How can I serve other people physically, verbally, mentally, my eye, my mouth, in whatever way I can use to be of some benefit to others. Okay, that's important. That's important. Always, what is the time now? Let me check my time. Okay. And then next verse, 4 categories of person are seen who move from light to extreme light, dark to extreme dark, light to extreme dark, and dark to extreme light. The first among these, be the first among these. So that basically means it can be explained in many ways. One is, for example, if you are today a human being, then you do certain practices and also born as a human being in the future life, then that is traveling from light to light on the level within the samsara. Today you are a human being, but because of your wrongdoing, your next life you are born as an animal and things like that, then it is traveling from light to darkness, right? Today you are born as an animal, and then again you are born as an animal or into hell, then that is dark to dark, right? Today you may be born as an animal, but next time you are born as a human being or a celestial being, that is traveling from darkness to light, right? So the main teaching that is given here is try to become better every day. So that is really traveling from light to light. From light to where there is more light, then gradually nirvana enlightenment. Right? Judge yourself. Like this year's your activity comparing to last year. We improved a little bit or not? So we need to check. Oh, how did it go? Can you hear now?
Yes, Kela, we can hear you.
Purchase in Gausama.
What is it? Did first?
Takudwa.
Good.
During which time?
How about sure?
Okay. Yeah. So the main point is try to become better. Especially if you have started engaging in Dharma practice, it is even more important to judge yourself. Sometimes when we think we are a Dharma practitioner, we might sometimes remain under a big illusion that you're doing Dharma practice, but you may not be doing Dharma practice. Right? So therefore it is really important to judge yourself, whether you are going from light to light or from light to darkness and so forth. It's not so much about judging other people, it's primarily judging yourself. Okay, now I stop here. So some questions?
Okay. Thank you so much, Keshla, as always, and as always, so much learning and so much reflection. You tend to, tend to reflect that. All right, so let's go for. Okay, so many people are raising hand. I'll go with first. Okay, I'm gonna stand first. Nearly, yeah. Go ahead.
Hi. Hello. What I wanted to ask is actually, it's very clear. I mean, sort of, that very beneficial to cope with any difficult situation is really to, not to be angry and and also, not to be attached to the object. And as you say, but
Yeah.
But what is not clear to me, how does it actually solve the situation itself? What I mean by that is, if you take what you mentioned, the Tibetan case, I think it's really admirable to see how the Tibetans cope with the situation in many ways.
Yeah.
But how does it really solve the situation in Tibet for them? Because here we are with these Chinese.
Yes.
They bring also the corona.
Exactly.
But no, and when you say, for instance, like a peasant is cultivating, his farm, which is obviously not for himself only, for the beneficial of, many people, the agricultural stuff. And then somebody comes, put on fire his land.
Yeah.
And he is really, sort of very, as you say, trying to cope with it in a very beneficial and good manner for himself. But how does it solve the actual situation? This guy comes and burns his field, or these Chinese come and, doing all these horrible things to the Tibetan in Tibet. I'm not saying in India, but, so how does it solve for the long run or for the short run, the situation?
So to this, there are many Buddhist answers, but let me give you an answer that Mahatma Gandhi gave. Mahatma Gandhi said, if somebody comes and take out your eyes, and then if you also retaliate and take the eyes out of your enemy, so if we adopt such a way of life, the whole world will become blind. So is this what we want? So that is number one. So what I'm trying to say is, number one, we don't have much control regarding what other people do.
Yeah.
So if you can, much in advance, you can stop that. Like in the issue of Tibet, the problem is Tibetans or Tibet did not prepare much before. Like they just completely lost in the so-called spiritual practice and did not make any material development and the capacity to defend its country. There we made a mistake. Once that mistake has been committed, and China with its might already captured Tibet, then what are you going to do in this situation? What is the best solution? Can you fight against them? Or even if you put some, bombs in some, embassies or things like that, is that the solution? You see? So we need to think like that. What is the best solution? As I said, to not to pay much attention to the wrongdoings of other people doesn't mean that you remain, complacent. Do whatever is appropriate, whatever is best. But violence, anger, these are not the long-term solution.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. But
yeah,
how can you really improve, the overall situation so that the other side will somehow?
yeah. So the other side. So what are you going to do? That's what I'm saying.
Huh?
So what are you going to do? So the way to respond to that is not in the same way that they are doing, like engaging in deception, violence, and things like that. But there may be many other ways, right? There are many other ways. So whatever, long-term solution and ways are possible, we should adopt that. Not commit a suicide, just like they are doing. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Geshe. So in that case, if there's an unavoidable situation in which there's a victim and and the perpetrator, then is it better to be in the position of the victim?
I can't hear now. It's raining again in Dharamsala. So I can hear the sound of my roof.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Acha, if there is an unavoidable situation in which there is a victim and a perpetrator, then is it better to be in the position of the victim in that case, or is there a middle way out?
There is a middle way out, that's what I'm saying. If there's any way not to let yourself victimized, adopt those ways, right? But we'll not be able to practice this easily unless you are somebody who has very, very long training and who has a lot of compassion. Then one could even die for other people. That's a much higher kind of state. But as much as possible, try to do those things which will not be detrimental to you and not necessarily harming that other person also. So there should be a definitely. That's why in the case of the Tibetan struggle, His Holiness has adopted the middle way. But then again, it's not easy. Even the middle way, the Chinese government is not listening, So in your life also, there may be people who may not listen. So in that way, again, as a human being, we will find some other ways. So try all the possible. So in other words, in terms of actual practice, what I'm saying is try the best way to find the solution. So whichever is the best way. If it is killing is the best way, maybe. So, I mean, that's not easy, but even at the time of the Buddha, there's a story of his, to save the life of many people, he killed one person. So theoretically, it is possible. But practically, we need to think very carefully. Okay.
Thank you,
Geshe
Geshe-la.
can we ask questions from our Russian listeners?
Yeah.
We have quite many today, so you please stop me when it's time to stop, okay? We have first question, which is actually from the previous times, but the person was not able to ask it. So I will just read it. I've heard the teaching on dream yoga, which said I've heard the teaching on the on dream yoga of the dream, right? And
Yeah.
it says that if we look at our dreams, we can see our hidden states of mind, to see what we need to work on. Is it so? Is it correct? And do I need to try to remember my dreams or to be aware of my dreams?
I think you should be aware and understand your need, not just wait on a dream. Because in the case of the signs that appear in the dream, some people who have past lives, positive habits, they might get, good kind of indications in the dream. Then also, if you are a very, very committed practitioner, then because of your regular practice, you might get some indications in the dream. But otherwise, what you see in the dream is not always reliable. And it is said that sometimes, the dream may be very pleasant, but it may be actually a dream that is created by the evil forces. For example, without having done any spiritual practice, if you see the Buddha visiting you, and because of that you feel overjoyed and stop your doing your practice, thinking that I'm a very special person, then that may be an obstruction, not a support to your spiritual practice. So dreams are actually the best examples of essencelessness. Like how many different types of dreams you get, you're dying, you're crying, you are fighting, most of these dreams are related to what you do in a day and so forth. They don't really have much meaning. Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe. And the next question is from Nika, and she says that sometimes people say that, or teachers say that you need to be in the flow. And if you are in the flow, you can take correct decisions, like choose right things. And what do you think? What is the flow? And what does it mean to be in the flow? Is it good or bad?
That's a term very, very much used in the West. And but it can be interpreted in different ways. One way, for example, is the flow of the natural law, the flow of impermanence, the flow of dependent origination, flow of emptiness. So if you let yourself flow in that state of ultimate reality or truth, then it's okay. But the flow doesn't mean that, whatever is happening, let it happen. Your life is mostly controlled by negative emotions and the influence of the society. So if you let yourself flow in the direction where the society wants you to take, then you will really be carried away by a big flood, and will be killed, right? That's why in spiritual practice, we need to make effort. On a higher level of practice, when you reach certain state, and then there is a teaching saying that, let your mind flow in accordance with the law of nature, without much conceptual thought and thinking, things like that. That I think is a little bit on a higher state. But for ordinary people like us, we need to make effort. Right? Effort is very important. But without making any effort, if you just let yourself, there is a Tibetan saying, that means somehow I am carried by the flow. So let me be carried by the flow of the karma, So that is really not taking responsibility, right? Because as we already read, in the case of practice of heedfulness, you need to make effort. You need to make effort, right? So don't just stay there. Otherwise, you'll be carried by the flow of the samsara, which is much stronger for ordinary people than the flow of nirvana. Okay.
Thank you, Geshe. And the next question is from Dinara. She says, I don't watch news, especially watch news, but still, I can't avoid hearing what is happening there and here. And I'm very upset about the bad news, and I'm worried because there are so many of them. How can I use this in my practice to be not careless?
No, generally not paying too much attention to the news, I think is good. Because today the world is flooded by news and information. Much of them is probably not much relevant, you see. So it's a good judgment not to spend too much time, watching news and things like that. But occasionally, because you are also a part of human society, human being, so occasionally it is important to see some news, and then bad news, good news also. Don't get too excited when you hear good news. Don't get too dejected when you hear bad news. Love is part of, good news and bad news, right? So it is important to be realistic. And in fact, these days we hear more bad news than good news, because good news is basically in accordance with the human nature, so they don't become news. And we see that this is something normal, so why should we talk about this? Like, for example, take the example, like say in a big city like New Delhi, there are millions of people in a day taken care of in hospitals, millions of children being loved and cared by their parents. So this doesn't become news, because this is something that human beings should be doing. And then if there is a killing, bloodshed, then it becomes a news, because it is against human nature. So now, because in this way we constantly see all the so sort of news says that is against human nature, they are bad, like fighting and killing and flood and all those things, right? So this does not mean to say that is the only thing happening in the world. As I said, for example, in a one big city, in a day, killing maybe just some people who you can count on your fingers. But those people who are cared and who are looked after and who are loved, they are countless. So still the human love, human affection, I think is much more stronger, right? So therefore there's no need to get dejected by hearing some of the bad news. Okay, so it's important to be realistic, And then after having heard the bad news, if there's something that you can contribute to, not to let such bad things happen in the society, you can take those steps. And by simply feeling dejected and sad is not the solution. It does not help anybody. It discourages you.
Geshe, thank you very much. Do we have time for 2 more questions?
Yeah, I will answer quickly.
Okay, so okay, the first one is from Marina. She
Yeah.
says, I have a very good family. My life is just wonderful. I have everything I need. I
Yeah.
practice Dharma every day and I take care of my family, but I'm not so much in contact with the society. So, and recently, I feel that probably I need to communicate more with people outside my family so that I can do more good for people in general. But in this case, probably I will have less time for Dharma practice. So what would you recommend for me? Do I need to go to work or shall I stay in my family and practice Dharma?
Oh, you're lucky. So it's wonderful that you appreciate your status. And but just having a good life, which means good family and then good food, good house, that is not enough, because it's a reality that the family members will also one day go. Your fortune might also change. All these things are possible. So it's important that you enjoy that, but it's also important what might come. So how are you going to face that? You see. So therefore, Buddhist teaching on impermanence, change, think about those things. And then, like in Buddhism, we have 2 practices called meditative practice and post-meditative practice. So in your family, if you're doing your spiritual practice, that is wonderful. There's like meditative practice, okay? So charging your battery, improving your positive emotions, removing your negative emotions. Now, the purpose of charging the battery is to use it to go into darkness. So that means when you go into the society, you will see many people in need, many people suffering. So there also you should help a little bit. No need to sacrifice completely, but as much as possible, help other people also, because there are many people who don't have even the basic necessities. So there it is important to help. That is part of your practice also, right? So you should be the best judge, but it's not, enough to be satisfied with the fortunes that one have. One should also share and help others in need. Okay.
Thank you, Geshe. And the last question is from Sergey. He says that there is a person who constantly does harm to me. Shall I just postpone communication with this person until the next life so that, this person does not accumulate bad karma because he harms me all the time?
Yeah, but first you should see carefully whether he's really doing harm or is just your mental projection. Sometimes it could be your mental projection also. And also see that person is harming you because you also played a part there, okay? There may be some reason. Now, if you have not done anything wrong to that person, and this person is unnecessarily, harming you, which is not good for him, and also, of course, not good for you, then you have every right to distance yourself from that person. There's no point when by letting that person harm you, neither you nor that person is getting anything positive. Then why should you, yesterday I was watching a very short video sent from Tibet, where there was a young Tibetan girl who made a short clip where she said, these days, dogs are much better than human beings. And the reason is dogs, number one, bark and, bark with people or harm other people who they do not know. Human beings harm those who they know. So she said, dogs are better than human beings. So my point is, it's better to distance yourself from that person. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe. Yes, thank you. This is it for this time.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all, and thank you, Geshe, for your wisdom, and thank you all for attending. And we, the foundation, always happy to see you all. It's like we are like a virtual family. So stay safe, stay happy, and keep smiling. So see you next Friday. And as always, we end by the mantra.
Kyunje magul gundo bara dosan jeje bola jin thuje chinje dola si chere sil la so de omane peme 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 Omane peme, 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 omane peme. Omane peme, 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 omane peme. Omane peme, 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 omane peme. Omane peme, 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 omane peme. Omane peme, 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 omane peme. Omane peme ho gewa di nyurdo da chere sewa tubyo ne dowa chekja male diye sala gubara sho. Thank you, everyone.